To the next of these training method videos, and this video is focused on two different types of training, and those training types are resistance or weights training and circuit training. Now, I'm going to show you a clip in a moment of myself just completing a couple of repetitions just to quickly jog your memory of what resistance training is, but essentially it is lifting weights, or it's overcoming the resistance that a weight or the human body is providing you with the use of gravity. So lots of things like squats, dips, push-ups. These are all body weight exercises, or you could do bicep curl, chest press, etc., which are all free weights. Have a look. Excellent. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to actually understand how do we design resistance or weights training and then circuits for athletes to get the desired results, because it's all about creating an effective program. So, resistance or weights training, there's a huge amount of research out there, and you need to be very careful that you access the right information when you search on the internet. When you design a weights or resistance training program for an athlete, it needs to be individualized. You must ensure that this training principle is met and adhered to. Otherwise, the athlete won't get the desired outcome for their session. What's really important here is that we understand three things: the load, the sets, and the repetitions. So the load is the amount of resistance. That's the actual weight that you are lifting. The number of repetitions is how many repeated movements of that action are you doing at once before resting. And then the number of sets is how many times am I repeating that through. So this athlete here looks like they're doing a chest press, a bench press. So they're going to lower the weight down with the use of gravity, and then they're going to resist gravity and pushing it up. They might do that 8 times. So that's 8 repetitions. And then they might pop it back on the prongs and have a rest. And they might do their next set of 8, have a rest, and their third set of 8 and have a rest. That means that they've completed 3 sets of 8 repetitions, and the amount of weight on the bar and the bar including itself would be the load. Excuse me. There's a lot of benefits, and not just the benefits that we see, which is larger muscles or muscle growth, what we call muscular atrophy. This increases strength. It can also increase power. It can help with stability, especially if we're working on core movements and legs. It can help with speed and agility if the right muscles are developed in the right way. The other thing that it can do is help strengthen our bones, so prevent osteoporosis. It can promote weight loss because it is asking for energy to be burnt using anaerobic means, okay? And that can mean as well that some of the food that we've eaten can be burnt off. And then finally, and one of the major things, is the releasing of endorphins to promote the psychological, mental, and emotional well-being of the athlete. So it's a couple of things to take note here. If somebody is starting a weights training program for the first time, they would be deemed as a novice or a beginner. And if they've been doing it for a little while, they move into intermediate, and been doing it for quite a long period of time, they're an advanced athlete in this area. Proper technique is absolutely critical. It helps minimize the risk of injury. And making sure that you know which joints to stabilize when you are isolating a specific muscle for a movement is critical. So you don't put too much stress on the wrong muscle, the wrong tendon, the wrong joint or ligament at the wrong time. So starting with multi-joint exercises, exercises like a squat, which moves across both the knee joint and the hip joint, is more preferred than the single joint exercises when you complete a training regime. Larger muscle groups should be exercised first, and we should make sure that novice athletes focus on whole body programs. This is where resistance training gets its main improvements from if this table is understood and adhered to. So we know that there's different components of fitness: muscular strength, muscular power, and muscular endurance. And as I mentioned before, the growth of muscles, muscular hypertrophy. If you want one of these desired outcomes, you need to follow the rules in the row that it adheres to. So, if we want to improve muscular strength, then the actual load that we're going to place on the weight plates and the bar will be between 60 and 70% of the maximum you can lift for that exercise. So, for example, if I know that I can complete one bicep curl at an absolute maximum of 25 kilos, then I would want to bring that 25 kilos down to 60 to 70% of that weight if I want to improve my muscular strength. Whereas if I want growth in the muscle, then I need to have that weight between 70 and 85. If I want to improve power, I actually want to bring the weight down to between 30 and 60. And if I want to promote the endurance of my muscle, then that one repetition max of 25 kilo gets brought down to 40 to 60% of that number when I complete these exercises. Now, how many repetitions do I complete within the set? It's listed there, and you'll notice that when you want endurance, you want a higher number. If you want power, you want a lower number. And for strength and hypertrophy, it's that sweet spot in the middle. The number of sets between 1 to 3, depending on how well trained the athlete is, and you can see that there's a jump here for the advanced athlete in going between 3 to 6 sets because they need that extra stress on the muscles. Now, if we want to promote different types of muscular contractions, then we need to focus on what is the speed of each repetition that we complete. And as you can imagine, power is explosive muscle contractions, so we want to complete each repetition as fast as possible. And the rest period is critical as well, because if you want endurance, you give yourself less rest, so we fatigue the muscles. And if you want power and you want to burn those phosphate creatine molecules, you need to give them time to replenish in between each set. So adhere to these rest periods closely. Final thing that I'll mention here is about the intensity of your training. When we actually perform at a low intensity, more slow twitch fibers are actually recruited. When we perform at a high intensity, more fast twitch fibers are recruited. So you need to know whether that athlete wants their program tailored towards their slow twitch fibers or their fast twitch fibers, and whether the athlete wants strength, power, hypertrophy, or endurance. All resistance training is deemed anaerobic, okay, and so it's not an aerobic based activity whatsoever. So most of the time those fast twitch fibers will be placed under stress, under the maximal, if you want maximal adaptations. Initial gains from a weight training program will be quick and sudden, usually due to the neuro pathways becoming more efficient, and therefore that diminishing returns, the law of diminishing returns that we spoke about in a previous video, comes into play pretty evidently. The final part of this video is to talk about circuit-based training. Now, circuit-based training is pretty straightforward, and I'm pretty sure everyone has experienced it before. Generally speaking, there's between 8 to 12 stations. Circuit training is usually created when an athlete wants to improve multiple fitness components, so speed, power, endurance, balance, agility, etc. And each segment of that circuit can have a different flavor or focus. This needs to be individually targeted for the athlete, but a lot of circuits are designed for general improvement in all fitness components and general fitness for individuals. So that's why we'll see at many gyms circuit-based training being quite popular in the things that are being designed. Now, one of the other elements that we need to take into consideration here is the benefits that come from circuit training. So multiple fitness components can all be adhered to. Large groups of people can get through it. It's a really good variety tool to keep motivation levels high. And minimal equipment is required because a lot of bodyweight exercises can be interspersed in there. There's a couple of different types of circuits that can be set up. Circuits can be set up for fixed time. That means we're going to spend 30 or 40 or 60 seconds working and then have a 10-second break while everyone moves to their next circuit station, and then we do the same amount of time. So that's one thing that's really good to use because music can play in the background. And I'm sure people have heard of things like Tabata, where the music is designed to stop at certain time points so you can move to the next working station. Fixed load circuit is a little bit harder when you've got groups because you need to complete a certain number of something before you move on to the next station, and you could be waiting for people if people have different areas of strength within their fitness components. So somebody who might be good at speed can get through the sprints quicker than somebody else, but it might be a situation where you are sitting there at one station ready to complete 10 push-ups, and then once you've completed the 10 push-ups, you move over to your 20 squats, and you might be finished your push-ups before the next person hasn't finished their squats yet, and you have to wait for them to move on. Individual circuit training is a strange one that not many people might have experienced before. This is one here that is really tailored for an individual and their needs, and it helps in progressive overloading. So you select an exercise and you complete as many repetitions of that exercise as you can in 1 minute. So if I pick push-ups, I put a minute on the clock and I do as many push-ups as possible in 60 seconds. However many I get, I then half that number, and that is the number that I will set for my circuit. So if I did 40 push-ups, I half that number to 20, and when I set up my circuit, I want to complete 20 push-ups. I do that for all my other exercises as well, and then I'm trying to complete that session, that circuit, as quickly as possible. The next time I complete that circuit with the same number of push-ups, now 20, I want to do it faster. And then you set yourself a goal. If I can complete it in 75% of what the initial time was, then I'm going to overload and create a new circuit. So I'll set another minute, I'll see how many push-ups I can do, I'll half it, and I'll go through that process again. Overloading circuits means just increasing the resistance or the load or the weights, adding more stations, adding more laps to the circuit. So a circuit might have 8 stations, and once you complete all 8, that's 1 lap, and you can set how many laps to complete. You can spend more time at each station. And one thing that you need to make sure that you do is you again focus on, do you want endurance? Do you want muscular power? Do you want strength when you set the number of repetitions or time? So here's a very quick little image that I've found of somebody who has set up their own little station. They've got their box jumps here where they're working on explosive muscular power. And then within these hexagonal placements on the floor, my guess is that they're working on fast footwork. So agility, moving in and out, or speed, moving with quick feet. Over here, using these ropes, depending on how long they're going, they might be working for muscular strength or maybe even muscular endurance here. Unsure as to what they plan on doing with these dumbbells, whether it's push-up or curl, but maybe muscular strength again. And then over here might be something plyometric with explosive movements with this medicine ball. I'll just leave you with one last idea about this circuit, and that is making sure that when we complete these weight circuits, we try and intersperse whether we're doing one muscle group and then giving that muscle group a rest during the next station of that circuit. So my example there is if I start with push-ups in my circuit and I complete that for 30 seconds or 45 seconds, I have my 10-second rest and I move to the next station, it's unlikely that that athlete is going to perform well if it's chest, shoulders, or arms that's being worked on again. So I would move to squats. So during that extra 30, 45, or 60 seconds of squats, the arms and chest are getting a rest. So my third station can then be upper body again, and my body has recovered from that